Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Come gather round the footlights, lads, and hear the old boards groan. A tale of ink and iron will, of voices overblown. From mics and scripts to painted sails, we've traded shore for sea. The players will man the rigging soon. Aye, all hands, follow me. From Long John shadowed silver grin to Jim with compass true. We speak the words, we wear the scars, we make the old world new. No gold without the work behind, no legend without sweat. A stage, a ship, a single breath. The course is not set yet. We play a sail, we play a sail, we play a sail soon. All hands to KLRN Radio, setting sail for Treasure Island, March 2026.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, or auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
For an oath to make a difference, ran toward danger while others turned away. Now it seems the world's against him, and no one knows quite what to say. Live the life and follow the a current member of law enforcement. Thank you.
And welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rick Robinson. This is the America Off the Rails show, and we are doing a couple of special event broadcasts. So for tonight, so last night, if you missed it, we did a special called In the Blink of an Eye because we have a lot of folks that seem to think they would make good armchair popos that have never even bothered to try to do any type of career that would put them anywhere near doing what a popo does. So that was that one. That was last night. This one, we're going to do a deep dive on everything the FBI has done since January 20th, 2025. So we got lots of things to talk about, and we're going to get started now. So this is something that on the face of it all, it sounds really simple, but it turns out to be anything but. We're taking a hard look at what the FBI actually did in the first year of the new administration. This spans from January 20th, 2025 through today. Not what Twitter thinks happened, not what cable news argues about, but what shows up when you line up operations, arrests, surges, and outcomes. Because for the last year, we've heard two competing narratives. One saying federal law enforcement is broken, paralyzed, incompetent. The guys at the top can't do anything, won't do anything, haven't done anything, or that they've been completely weaponized by the other side. The other insisting everything is fine and the criticism is fake. Tonight, we're going to ignore both of those and look at the actual receipts. This is America Off the Rails, and this is our FBI in depth review for the last year, locked and loaded. What counts as an FBI operation has to be the first question that you ask yourself. So before we get into numbers, we need to define terms because when people hear FBI operation, they imagine one of two things: either a dramatic raid with jackets and helicopters, or a shadowy conspiracy involving classified files, black rooms, maybe an agent and his female partner in the basement with a cigarette smoking man trying to kill them. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong show for that. The reality, however, is less cinematic and more useful. At the federal level, an operation usually means one of three things. First, a named national enforcement surge, where all or most field offices are working toward the same target at the same time. Second, a resource deployment, where agents, analysts, or task force members are surged into specific regions or case types. Third, a coordinated takedown, where dozens or hundreds of related cases are unsealed together to disrupt a broader criminal network. And that's what we're tracking tonight. We're not counting every arrest. We're not counting the routine casework. We're looking at the moments where the Bureau went loud, where priorities were declared and resources followed. And once you line those up, a clear pattern emerges. 2025 wasn't an operation. It was a stacked year of surges. Operation Not Forgotten, where the year for them really starts. If you want to know where the FBI operational year truly begins, it's not with a flashy headline. It's with Operation Not Forgotten. Announced in April of 2025, this was a national surge focused on unsolved violent crimes in Indian country, including cases involving missing and murdered indigenous persons. And the key phrase here is surge personnel. This wasn't guidance. This wasn't a task force memo. This was the FBI and the DOJ physically moving agents and analysts into multiple field offices to reopen cases that had stalled, often because of jurisdictional gaps or lack of resources. The FBI itself described this as the longest and most intense national deployment of resources ever directed at Indian country crime ever. This tells you two things. One, these were cases they believe could still be solved. And two, they were willing to spend political and institutional capital to do it. This is important because it establishes the theme of the year: pressure through presence. And once that model is in place, you start to see it repeat over and over again. So here's where we are for right now. So far we're going to take this at kind of a lightning pace tonight because there's a lot to get through, and I only have an hour to get through it in because Sean is up next. So I am going to be looking at notes rather consistently and continuously because there are lots of notes here. So if I'm not paying attention to the chat, I apologize in advance. I hope you guys, whether you're listening to this later on our replay or even live, I hope you understand why we're doing this. Because I said this the other day. We, now that we have access to computers in our pockets 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, need to stop relying on the administration to be its cheerleaders and its front people. That should be us, and it can be us, and it should be. I mean, look, if you've got a job where you're afraid you're going to get fired for speaking your mind, you know what? I'm not asking you to do that. But you know what you can do? You can quietly whisper to your friends about groups like this one, where KLRN Radio, SHR Media, and the folks at Buffoon of the Week try to bring you the truth as best we can. We don't all work for the same folks. We're not all tied to some secret parent company organization or anything like that. We just all believe in the same thing and we're all trying to push the boulder up the hill at the same time. Kind of like what we're seeing happening with the FBI. So this is another one. So this is when we start talking about the clearest example of that surge model. In May of 2025, the Department of Justice announced results from Operation Restore Justice, a nationwide crackdown on child sexual exploitation. The result, 205 offenders were arrested. I'm going to say that again. 205 offenders were arrested and 115 children were rescued. That alone would make it one of the most significant enforcement actions of the year. But that was just the beginning. In December of 2025, DOJ announced Operation Relentless Justice, another nationwide push, this time running for 2 weeks across every FBI field office. That operation resulted in another 293 offenders arrested and another 205 child victims located. That's 2 national crackdowns within the same year, same crime category. That's not coincidence. That's prioritization. If you're doing the math, that is already 598, or I'm sorry, 498. I did the math wrong. 498 offenders arrested and 320 children rescued. So, why am I bringing this up to you? Because you're hearing from the left and even some folks on the right how inept the guy that's running the FBI is. This doesn't sound inept to me. As somebody who has ran a security and private investigations firm and spent some time wearing a badge and a gun and all those fun things, this isn't ineptitude. This is finding ways to get things done. So this also set the stage for what comes next, because while crimes against children represent the moral core of federal enforcement, violent crime represents the public-facing test. Which brings us to the next thing that we're going to talk about. And again, you're listening to America Off the Rails, tonight's special, Locked and Loaded. The FBI went loud in year one. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next part here. But before we do, I do want to talk to you about my friends at Freedom Chat. You can find them right here on the screen. freedomchat.com. Go there. You can see right there, speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat is one of the best private communication apps out there. You have the ability to keep your conversations completely private, and only certain people can invite people to the communications. And not trying to give these terrorists in Minneapolis any ideas, but if they were using Freedom Chat, they wouldn't have gotten busted. Just saying. But yeah, freedomchat.com. And we'll get into that some, well, I was going to say tomorrow, but I don't have a show anymore on Tuesdays, at least not for right now. And the one that we're going to start won't have anything to do with politics. So I don't know. I may or may not do a special at some point tomorrow if I get more of my work out of the way, because there's just so much going on. So we'll see. But anyway, freedomchat.com, select your platform, download the app for your phone. We have channels there so far for the Rick Robinson Show and for KLR Radio itself. So I hope you guys check it out. I hope you like it, because they're my friends and I try to support my friends, and it's pretty damn awesome. All right, so let's keep rolling here because, well, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to get through. Trying not to give myself a speeding ticket or anything, but we do have lots of material to cover. Looks like we've got some folks hanging out in the chat, and BZ is in the chat and just posted the show. So far, it looks like it may just be me and him. It looks like we had a couple of folks hanging out on YouTube. I guess they decided I suck already. It's all right, though. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I don't really care. All right. So let's see what's going on. So probably what's happening is these people are like, oh my God, it's another conservative, and I don't want to listen to that crap. But anyway, so back to what we're talking about right about now, because like I said, this is important. This matters to me, and it should actually matter to you because you're paying for this. All right, so let's get into the next section here. Give me just a second here. Sorry, I'm fighting with my assistant. Okay. Because yeah, my notes were supposed to be ready to go and they weren't. So while we're waiting on the notes to pull back up, just a bit of breaking news. So this happened earlier today. You guys, we talked about it on the show today. There has been a signal gate situation for the left this time. And now that everything is coming out, those folks are starting to turn tail and run. So okay, so we'll get into more of that on the next show that I do because it doesn't really fit the criteria for tonight. I was just vamping while I find my notes because yeah, I don't know what happened. So far we've talked about surge models, how the Bureau moved people and resources with intent. Now we get to the most visible enforcement push of the year. This was Operation Summer Heat. It was a nationwide FBI violent crime initiative with results released by multiple field offices in the fall of 2025. Here's what those combined reports showed: a total of 8,629 arrests, over 6,500 tied directly to violent crimes and gang activity, 2,281 firearms seized, 44,569 kilograms of cocaine seized, 421 kilograms of fentanyl seized, and more than 1,000 child victims identified and located. It's not one city. It's not one weekend. That's a coordinated national posture aimed at violent offenders, fugitive gangs, and trafficking networks. Now, let's slow down here for a second because these numbers don't tell you whether every arrest sticks. They don't tell you sentencing outcomes yet. And they'll tell you whether priorities were perfect. But what they do tell you is something important. The Bureau was operating at scale. This wasn't symbolic enforcement. This wasn't issued guidance. This wasn't a potted plant sitting in the Oval Office falling asleep with his tapioca pudding with an FBI that had no idea what they were supposed to be doing because they were leaderless and rudderless. This was boots on the ground pressure applied across jurisdictions. And buried inside of those thousands of arrests is a stat that deserves its own spotlight because it cuts through every narrative in the room. So, at one point, when all of this was underway and sparsed in through all these different operations that we've talked about, there was a deeper motive here. And it's what I like to call hunting the hunted. Because so far, Cash Patel, the guy that everybody told you was incompetent, had no idea what he was doing, didn't have any business helming the FBI, has nabbed six of the FBI's top 10 most wanted. And this all occurred between January 20th, 2025 and today. Again, the FBI has taken down 6 of the 10 fugitives on the FBI 10 most wanted fugitives list. 6 out of 10 in roughly a year. That's 60% turnover of the Bureau's highest priority targets. And that is with everything else that we were just talking about. Now, as somebody who was rank and file, I've never really been a huge fan of the feds. I'm not going to tell you that I wasn't or that I was. But this is amazing to me. This is astounding to me because this proves to me that the FBI can actually do its job and do it well. We're talking about thousands of arrests, 6 of which were some of the biggest, baddest mofos that have been on the top of their charts for how long? So let's be crystal clear about what that list represents. That's not minor crime. That's not paperwork. That's not missed a court date. These are violent offenders, murderers, kidnappers, organized crime figures, people who have already proven they can, 1, evade arrest, 2, cross state and national borders, and 3, stay hidden for years. You don't get someone off that list by accident. You can't Leslie Nielsen your way into that. These takedowns usually involve multi-agency fugitive task forces, long-term surveillance, financial and communication tracking, informants, international partners, and often public tips. Several of these captures align directly with violent fugitive priorities under Operation Summer Heat. meaning this wasn't luck. It was sustained pressure by an organization that had been given a clear mission statement again, instead of having to follow the whole DEI, everybody's wonderful, let's all sing Kumbaya and hug a tree, and everybody gets a trophy. No, they were told they were allowed to start doing their jobs again and actually look for people that were breaking the law and do so en masse. I mean, living in Oklahoma, I want to talk to you about something. You want to talk about a governmental shift, especially in the native community. You have to remember there are people that still live here where I live who remember when the white doctors were sterilizing them and keeping them from being able to have children. There are people that are still alive from that, or at least it was passed down from their their great aunts and great uncles who were told, well, we weren't ever able to have children because we didn't know that when she went in for her smallpox vaccination that they sterilized her. So you want to talk about people trying to do the right thing, focusing on indigenous crime with his outcast that these people have always felt. That is a huge thing because they have felt like outcasts. Now, I'm not trying to do the whole, we're evil invaders and we took their land away, blah blah blah, because these people were savages when we got here and they treated us like they were savages. And at one point, we were even getting along with them. And then the chiefs got pissed off because Christianity didn't align with how they like to do things. So a lot of the chiefs started drumming people up into a war stance, kind of like what's happening in Minneapolis right now, which we talked about in depth today and yesterday. But again, this wasn't luck, it was sustained pressure. This is one of the cleanest counters to the claim that law enforcement isn't doing anything anymore because fugitives don't turn themselves in out of vibes. They get caught because someone stayed on the case, sometimes for years, long days, even longer nights, time away from family and friends, missed holiday dinners, missed graduations, because this felt more important to the people that were doing the job. Because it was important to them because they were being allowed to do their job again. The 10 most wanted list is a lagging indicator. By the time someone ends up on it, they're already the hardest cases left. So when 6 of those 10 come off the board in a single year, what you're seeing isn't any form of collapse like the left and CNN and MS and PMS now and all the other zombie media networks want you to believe. This is capacity. This is the ability for the FBI to do its job, to outline its mandate, and to execute it. I'm not going to say flawlessly, but pretty damn close. I mean, think about that for a second. You have a top 10 fugitive list, and 60% is knocked off the board in a year. Could you imagine if you were working somewhere and they had a benchmark where there were 10 things that you had to do and you had 4 years to get those 10 things done and you did six of them in the first year? Just that alone. Not everything else that we're talking about tonight. That's the craziest part about all of this is the fact that we are watching all of these people that keep telling you, all the voices, all the talking heads keep telling you how much the FBI sucks and how they don't know what they're doing and how Dan Bongino was a joke and Cash Patel was a joke and Pam Bondi's an even bigger joke. And look, I'm not going to get into that argument with you because I know how hard these jobs are. And there are lots of things. And we went into this in great detail last week on Gene's show because everybody was mad because with what happened with the church, there weren't arrests made immediately. And unfortunately, because those crimes didn't happen in front of police officers, there were entire forensic things that had to be done. Then you have just as many people that are mad because Don Lemon didn't have an arrest warrant sworn out, and they assume that means the judge isn't going to let it happen, but that's not true either. That just means that once they have their ducks lined up well enough, they take it to a grand jury. But looking at what the FBI has done so far, what do you think is more likely? That at this point, they're going to hang this over his head and then just watch what he does and go after anybody else that he brings out before they nab the big fish? Because I know what I would do. I know what I would do. All right. My name is Rick Robinson. We've reached the halfway point. We're going to take another music break. Want to thank everybody for hanging out. I'll get caught up in the chat while we're on break because it's been really hard to do that during the broadcast.
Life behind their smile.
Everybody hates my
They
chat.
laugh at those who won't bow down.
But anyway, we will be right back here in just a couple minutes, so don't go away. Or if you do, make sure you come back because I love you.
Darkness grips the heart of men, and truth becomes a lie. They dress their greed in borrowed prayers and call it justified. The loudest mouths preach mercy with a knife behind their smile. They laugh at those who won't bow down or walk their crooked mile. Those who stand for virtue will be rejected again and again, cast out in the cold for believing that right is still right. Even then, they'll say you're a fool for loving truth and lost for holding the line. When darkness grips the heart of men and truth becomes a lie, they trade their souls for silver and call the bargain peace. They curse the chains of righteousness while begging to be free. The crowd will cheer the liar if the lie feels warm and kind, but stones are safe for anyone who dares to reject the lies for the truth. Those who stand for virtue will be rejected again and again, branded the enemy for refusing to kneel as weak men did. They'll crown the wolves as shepherds and blindfold every eye. When darkness grips the heart of men and truth becomes a lie. Blessed are the lonely who won't betray what they believe. The road is narrow, the cost is high, but chains don't set you free. I'd rather walk with scars and God than kneel with gilded hands. Truth don't need 1,000 voices, just one that dares to stand. Those who stand for virtue will be rejected again and again, but the fire they try to bury still burns in faithful men. And then let the ages judge the moment. Let heaven hear our cry. When darkness grips the heart of men, we will not live the lie. truth don't die. It burns eternal flame.
All right, and welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before we went to break, I saw in the chat BZ had asked a question and had mentioned that, especially over the last few days, I have not been a huge fan of my governor. That would be because my governor went on CNN and acted like a Democrat, and he's not supposed to be one. Now, granted, he's not up for re-election, so now he's basically just telling everybody what he really thinks. But yeah, so he basically, I don't understand what the end game is here in Minneapolis and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, not a fan, not a fan because he specifically said, I don't think every single American wants every single non-citizen deported. And I'm like, yeah, all the illegal ones. Yes, we absolutely do. We absolutely want all the illegal ones gone. So you're wrong, sir. Now, you hedged your bet by making sure the word illegal wasn't on there. So anybody who calls you out on it has to put a caveat in there because you're not entirely wrong. We don't want all the non-citizens deported as long as they're here legally. And hopefully if they're here long enough legally, they start to pursue a path to citizenship. Because as long as they're here legally and they're doing things the right way, I welcome them with open arms. That's the part the left won't ever tell you. They assume that we don't want anybody who doesn't look like us in this country. That is not true because I don't even look like half my ancestors because I'm you can't tell by looking, but I have a pretty good percentage of native blood. That's why the surge with the FBI and the whole native community, the indigenous peoples thing they did was a huge deal for me because they went in and closed a bunch of cold cases that all the natives thought nobody gave a damn about anymore. Now, here's another one that nobody's really talking about. And don't forget, coming up here in a minute, we'll head over into SHR Media territory and hang out with Sean Lewis for the Edge of Liberty. I do believe he is up in about 20. So we'll head over there and hang out with him for a little while too. But before we do that, we got to finish all this because there was also a very large fraud takedown and one of the largest ones regarding healthcare fraud in U.S. history. But again, this is the incompetent FBI ran by Kash Patel, who doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground. On June 30th, 2025, the Department of Justice announced what it called the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in American history. So let's go over the numbers. 324 defendants were charged with varying crimes. More than $14.6 billion in alleged fraudulent claims were tracked down. This wasn't one scam. This was dozens. This was dozens of networks, many transitional, exploiting Medicare and Medicaid through stolen identities, fake providers, shell companies, and outsourced billing operations. Reuters described it as fraud on an industrial scale. So we're going to back this up for a second because remember when the government shut down just a few short months ago and all you kept hearing about was the Democrats and how healthcare is becoming more and more unaffordable for Americans? And you think maybe $14.6 billion in alleged fraud claims might have something to do with healthcare becoming unaffordable? And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you that it has become unaffordable. What I am saying is you guys passed something over a decade ago called the Affordable Care Act. And it was anything but. But all they really did, because remember, all this was supposed to tighten all this stuff down. This was supposed to make it harder for people to get a hold of your medical information. It was supposed to be harder for people to commit this kind of fraud. And all they did was make it easier. Because you have to remember, everything they tell you a bill is going to do, all you really have to do if you take the time to look under the hood is you'll find out that it's going to do the opposite. So you don't even necessarily need to read it. Once you understand that, you just listen to what they're telling you and understand that if you had it in front of you, you would actually find out it was doing the exact opposite. This goes back to the border bill that everybody was throwing a fit about towards the end of Biden's term, when I had even Republicans. I mean, I'm talking like high-ranking former Republicans in Oklahoma, like former Speaker of the House, calling me on the phone wanting to know why I was railing about how bad this thing was on my show and on social media. I don't name drop often, but that one's important to me because we don't talk very much anymore because I just finally I told him, I said, look, I don't care that according to you, because you know how the system works, if this wasn't an election year, it probably would have passed because I've read the damn thing and it sucked. It didn't do anything it said it was going to do. And even if the emergency triggers were pulled, it didn't do anything but say, well, now they have to go through ports of entry. They can't. That was the law already. So what you're saying is, even if we pulled the emergency trigger once there were, what was it, 5,000 encounters in a week or 1,500 in a day, they could be like, oh yeah, we're gonna stop. No, they weren't ever gonna stop it. They were just well, now we're gonna make sure they go through ports of entry so we can count them. Same thing here. $14.6 billion in alleged fraudulent claims from Medicare and Medicaid, primarily because the ACA was a piece of crap. So this matters because fraud isn't victimless. At this level, fraud drains public systems, raises costs for everyone, and the part that nobody talks about, funds organized crime. These monies were going right back into cartel pockets. These monies were going right back into gang members' pockets. These monies were going right. If there's any Italian mobsters left, I guarantee you they were getting a slice of this pie too. But hey, let's just assume it's not happening, and I'll sing "Kumbaya" and hug a tree. So this is the other side of the FBI's operational year. On one side, you had fugitives that were captured en masse. You had 6 of the top 10 that were captured, and firearms and drugs. I mean, the what was it? 12 kilograms of fentanyl. You guys have like one pinhead worth of fentanyl can kill somebody. So imagine what 12 kilograms would have been able to do. Another is the spreadsheets, the subpoenas, and the forensic accounting. And in 2025, the Bureau leaned into both. And this is when we get into the bean counter side. This is when the nerds got to go to work and got to show us what they could do. So not every operation gets a branding package. Some of the most consequential work of the year flew under the radar. For example, the FBI worked with partners to disrupt organized burglary rings targeting professional athletes' homes. I'm sure you guys remember these stories. There was this story right before the Super Bowl about these football players that had their houses ransacked. Transactional crews exploiting travel schedules and predictable patterns. And then there's the North Korean fake IT worker schemes. These involve stolen or synthetic identities used to place operatives inside U.S. companies as remote workers, sometimes running laptop farms from inside the United States. That's not just fraud, that's access. That's money flow. That's counterintelligence adjacent crime existing inside and hiding inside normal business operations. These cases don't come with dramatic footage, but they're exactly the kind of threats modern law enforcement is built to confront. So, again, just to recap, thousands of children have been found, hundreds of criminals have been charged and removed from the streets. Top 6 of the top 10 FBI most wanted are currently off the streets. We're finding cyber crimes, cleaning house there. The FBI has dealt with billions of dollars of Medicaid, Medicare fraud. But remember, according to the Democrats, that doesn't happen. There is no widespread Medicare and Medicaid fraud, Rick. You don't know what you're talking about. Just as a reminder, that was how much? How much? $14.6 billion. Oh, again, that's billion with a B. Hang on, let me do this properly. Billion. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So, as we come to the end of the topic, there's still lots of stuff that we need to talk about. So, in early January of 2026, the FBI announced a major overhaul of its operations hub, now referred to as the Director's Strategic Information Center. The emphasis was on faster information flow, real-time coordination, and higher operational tempo. In plain English, the Bureau is building and creating a system for a world where cases move faster, threats overlap, and delays cost outcomes. That matters because structure follows strategy. Almost said strategery. Fucking Bugs Bunny, I swear to God. All right. So as we come to the end of our time together, because we do have a little bit of time left, but we're gonna use that to do a lightning round for the news. Make sure we're not missing anything else. But as far as the part of the program that I definitely wanted to make sure that we got to, here's the recap. So this is what the year actually looked like, despite what the media is trying to tell you. Surge personnel into unresolved violent crime, 2 nationwide child exploitation crackdowns, not 1, but 2. Operation Summer Heat targeting, again, violent crime. 6 of 10 of the most wanted fugitives have been taken down. The largest healthcare fraud takedown ever. Quiet disruption of transnational and nation-state crime. And an op center reset heading into 2026. That's not one story. That's a pattern. Whatever you think about the FBI, whatever you've been told about the FBI has. I'm going to be honest. I don't think the FBI has been this good at its job since its inception, because I know the truth about the FBI's inception. J. Edgar Hoover was only given the job because he knew where all the bodies were buried. The FBI was originally America's answer to the KGB. That's what it was created for. That's what it did for the longest time. So all of these, and there's been this whole revamp and revitalization campaign in Hollywood now for decades, showing you how good the CIA is when it does its job, how good the FBI is when it does its job. This first year is probably the only time that I can remember that I have seen the FBI actually living up to fidelity, bravery, and integrity, which is their motto. In my lifetime, this is probably one of the only times that I can remember seeing them actually living up to that motto, because they tackled everything, everywhere, all at once, which is what we as conservatives keep saying that we want. I hear that all the time. They're not doing enough. They're not moving fast enough. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. We always act like we want everything, everywhere, all at once. But if you look at the numbers, if you look at the data, if you dig through the receipts, they're giving you what you asked for. They're giving you what you voted for. And yet, because you keep buying into the zombie media bullshit, there's a good chance that we're at a 50-50 coin toss of losing the midterms with everything they've accomplished. And the first thing I hear, well, they're not telling us. They're not telling us what they shouldn't have to. I don't have it with me, or right now I'd be holding up my cell phone, because as I used to say all the time, you have in your hand almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week anymore, more computing power than took us to the moon. To the moon, for God's sake. All right, we're going to take another quick music break, only because for some reason my nose is trying to shut off on me, and then we'll come back and close out the show. So hang on just a second. I'm looking for something specific here. I thought I had it, but I don't see it. You know what? We'll just run this one. I like this one. We haven't put this one out yet, but this one will be probably released sometime next month. It hasn't officially gone out yet, but it will be. All right. We're going to take a quick music break while I get this squared away so I don't...
If somebody remembers, they say your legacy is only real if they can point and say that's him. If the...
Sorry.
They say it's only real if somebody remembers. They say your legacy is only real if they can point and say that's him. If the room goes quiet when I walk in, if my shadow's longer than my sin, numbers climbing, names on screens, always craving accolades and needing to be seen. If they don't see me, I don't matter. If I'm not winning, what's the use? I gotta leave something carved in stone, something louder than the truth I know. 'Cause too close to death, and being forgotten scares me most. The world says it only matters if they see me, if they know my name. If I'm up in lights, I gotta burn it in so they remember. Before the darker night claims the light, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Yeah, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Say my name, don't let me fade away. I watch the faithful go unnoticed, hands so dirty from the work they never chase. Recognition, always walking in faith. Every prayer said in the shadows, every choice nobody praised. They weren't building monuments to fame, just kneeling to pray. Even when it was tough to stay, I felt the weight of what I wanted and the cost of what it took. I was chasing something empty while the answer overlooked. The world says it only matters if they see me, if they know my name. If I'm up in light, gotta burn it in so they remember. Before the darker night claims the light, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Yeah, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. If they don't see me, I don't exist. If they don't clap, did I even live? I need my name in fire and sparks. I gotta make it loud before the lights go dark. Truth be told, and got a lone nose. I chase the crowd just to feel complete. I measure worth by clout, by those surrounding me. But there's only one name that matters, and I lay mine down to claim it. All these years I tried to leave a legacy when I was called to carry his name. The only thing worth leaving behind is a life that pointed back to him. Not my glory, not my fire, just faith that held when the whole world dimmed. It shouldn't matter if they knew my name. My life should be the proof of his glory. What matters is what they saw in me when the world was watching how I live my life. It never mattered if they saw me or if they ever knew my name. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day, then I ran my race the right way. Let the lights fade, let the noise fall. Heaven knows the choice I made. I don't need my name in the spotlight if they saw Jesus in my walk each day. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day. If heaven knows my name, that's enough of name. That's enough of me. They say
One of these days, I'm going to remember to turn the loops off on those things. Anyway, welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. We are just about done here. Going to coming out in just a couple of minutes. We'll be heading over to SHR Media territory for the Edge of Liberty. Oh boy. All right, so we got to talk about this one because this ties into some of the stuff that we've been talking about earlier today as well. So you guys may not know about this, but apparently there was an Antifa crossdresser who was urging followers to take up arms against ICE. Now he's on the run. The self-described member of the radical leftist terror organization, Kyle Wagner, is reportedly on the run after encouraging insurrection and threatening ICE agents. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So this will probably be one of the last things we talk about real quick, just because, want to try to end on a somewhat fun note. You guys should be seeing it on the screen now, and here we go.
the video I posted from the Alex Preddy murder, calling for direct action, calling for boots on the ground, calling for someone to stand against these murderers, was deemed inciting violence, and they're being bullied by the administration. Clearly, I don't think that they're gonna let them take my account down, but I don't know what they're gonna do, man. They're gonna silence me somehow, and they're having a hard time putting a bullet in my head. So we shall see what they do to get the job done. I have a backup account in my bio. I am basically on the run now. I have safe places and I have evacuations planned out, but the way things are going, I'm going to have to be very resourceful, and that's going to take support. So, thank you a million times to those of you who have. We were able to deploy over 100 gas masks on the streets in the last couple of days and help a lot of people, probably even save a couple of lives with the amount of CS gas they've deployed. As I've said a million times, I'm going to stay in this fight to the bitter end. I'm not going to run away, but I will need some help.
So the guy who's not running away officially just ran away. Color me confused. Color me confused. I'm right there with you. But yeah, so anyway, the guy who just basically told everybody he's not going anywhere, apparently just went. So actually, the weird thing is I could have swore I saw a picture of him actually arrested earlier. May have been somebody else though. All right, but anyway, that's gonna do it for this one, folks. Again, I am off tomorrow. I'm actually completely off tomorrow because of the schedule change around. I will, however, be hanging out in SHR Media's chat for Mission Ready Men tomorrow starting at noon Eastern. So make sure you guys are there for that. I will hopefully have some articles coming out tomorrow because that's one of the reasons why I'm changing my schedule around. I haven't been able to find enough time to write lately, and that's part of what gets me paid. So I got to start doing that more than I have been. Again, want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out. Want to thank BZ for actually not being shy and hanging out in the chat room. We had a few of you listening, so I'm surprised there weren't at least a couple more chatters. But then again, I have been off more than I've been on for the last few months, so I know it's going to take me a while to build everything back up again, so I can't really be that mad about it. But I do encourage you, those of you that are still here, to hang out for Sean right here on KLR Radio. But after you give us the click, just so we can show that you were here and see it, you may want to head over to their YouTube channel because that is the best place to chat. Especially now that they figured out how to bring all the liberals to their yard. Again, we're going to send you over to the Boston Bastage. Wrote this one myself. I call it the Cry of Boston. I figured it fit in pretty well. See you guys on Wednesday. Bye, everybody. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRnradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRnRadio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRnRadio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLR. we're gonna hang out here for a minute. I don't know what happened. I was all set up to go over to Sean's feed, and now I can't find Sean. So feed's still there. So I'm hoping maybe he caught an issue and was gonna fix it. Nope, that's not it either. That one was the one that just ended. So I don't know, but while we're waiting, I don't really know what to do. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and shut my feed down, and if he gets started, I'll just spin everything back up because I don't want to just sit here while I'm waiting. I'm gonna go find out what happened. Bye, everybody. Have a great night. And if Sean starts up, I'll feed it in again.